Hi everyone. So OPSC mains exam is over, thank God. And this is the GS paper 1 analysis. Now many of you would have written the mains this year. So even if you come across this video, even if you watch it, don't try to think what are the things I have missed. See, analysis is different, and you cannot go back in time and change the things. So analysis always helps you to prepare for the future. Okay, so that is the reason why we are doing the analysis. Don't feel bad about it if you have missed any points or missed any any other particular sections. Now in section A, sabu question guda 20 marks thila, so you have to and all of them were mandatory. Okay, so let's look at the questions. We were thinking ki OPSC will ask UPSC like questions like 15 marker and 10 marker, but instead OPSC went for 20 marker and 15 marker. Anyway, question number 1, in what ways India a diverse and multicultural society? Why was it considered so, and how did it differ from other societies of Asia and Europe? So basically, you have to give the reasons behind India's vast diversity, and then compare and contrast it with other Asian and European societies. Now, one of the biggest reason for India's vast diversity is its geography. Okay, geography, because there is physical geographical varieties. Physical geography ensures that cultural diversity do emerge out of it. For example, the North Indian culture and South Indian culture are different because for a long period of time there was a piece of mountain was cutting across or acted as a barrier. For example, Vindhya and Satpura range. So for a long periods of time, we had a North India and we had a South India, and in between them there was a physical barrier that was Vindhya Satpura range, and that acted, this physical barrier ensured that there is no cultural assimilation. Instead we found cultural diversity. Similarly, agar aap north east dekhoge, we see so much of diversity because of the geography. So geography is one of the reasons. And if you look at India, India is not only a country, but we call it a subcontinent. So geography is a major reason why India is such a diverse country. And apart from that, uh, Indian subcontinent, if you look from the days of Indus Valley civilization, we had foreign contacts. Okay, one comparison you can do. See, Mesopotamian civilization was there and Indian civilization was there. Indian civilization, Indus Valley civilization, from the days of Indus Valley civilization till today, we have high degree of continuity with that with that civilization. Even Lord Pasupat is still there. Fertility cult is still there. Mother Goddess is still there. Okay, so there is a high degree of continuity in Indian society. Okay, and here one of the reasons geography आप बता देना. Then you can talk about history. When I say history, the historical contacts. ठीक है, Alexander was the first European contact in Indian subcontinent. Battle of Hydaspes हुआ था. Okay, Alexander versus Poru. वो सब तो पता ही होगा आपको, बता देना. ठीक है. Then European contact, then Arabian contact will be there. Persian contacts will be there, Mongolian contacts will be there. So continuously throughout our history, people have been contacting the land of India, and this resulted, this brought a lot of diversity into India. Let me give an example. That Arab traders who used to come to say Kerala's Malabar coast, they started taking local wives, and from that we saw the emergence of moplas. So Arab merchant taking a local Indian wife, and out of that their offspring came to be known as moplas. So that is another another part of diversity. Agar Kerala mein agar aap diversity dekhte ho, because high degree of trade. Similarly, we can talk about other aspects as well. So history is, and historical contacts, ये contacts थोड़ा बता देना since the times of Alexander. ठीक है, then you can talk about it. And apart from that, see, India as a land has gave birth to three major religions across the world: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism too. ठीक है, so yes, that is the one of the reasons why we see high degree of diversity, cultural diversity, religious diversity, political diversity, and all other aspects of diversity is observed in India. Okay. So simply bata dena what are the causes. Try to don't write too much of geographical causes, but write, because it is a mostly history based question. So write historical causes, or give emphasis to historical causes. You can briefly give examples also, जैसे Gandhara art हो गया, ठीक है, that is Greco-Roman art. Now next part of the question is how it differs from other societies of Asia and Europe. When the Indians were writing, say, Upanishads, much of the Europe was was living in caves. ठीक है, so that is one of the reasons. So yes, ये एक example, बहुत सारे ऐसे example है how it is differs from Asia or European societies, in the sense that in Europe or other Asian societies, for example जापान अगर आप देखोगे, ethnic diversity is very low, वहाँ पे diversity इतना ज़्यादा नहीं है. If you look at European diversity also, over there diversity mostly means different skin color, ठीक है, and यूरोप में भी ज़्यादा diversity नहीं है. It is still dominate a land dominated by the so called whites. So आप ये दिखा सकते हो, ठीक. And how it is different from other societies in Europe, if when we observed a diversity in Europe, too much diversity in Europe, that resulted in, say, balkanization of Europe. ठीक है, Europe segregated into different countries, but we don't see that kind of segregation in India. ठीक है, although Pakistan and Bangladesh were segregated, but then again India as a vast land mass, from the majority of if from a continental point of view, if you see, still majority of the land mass is united politically and geographically. So ये बता सकते हो. Different this question can be, you can write an essay on this. So doesn't matter how you write or what are the things you write, more or less you are going to do justice to this particular question. Moving on. Now, what are the causes and consequences of Odisha famine of 1866? See, in this kind of question, we know that drought is natural, but famine is man-made. ठीक है, ये आपको बताना है, ठीक है. And if you see the cause of Odisha famine, obviously there was a bad monsoon year था and a drought year था. 1865 में पूरा drought, it was a drought year. But then again, there was high degree of mismanagement and maladministration. You'll be surprised to know that much of the drought in India, Odisha, happened because we didn't had good transportation network. ठीक है, drought was ongoing, and at the same time in 1866 onwards there will be monsoon, and we don't have pakka roads. Much of our roads were kacha roads, and when there was sudden flood kind of situation, so even if we managed to procure 10,000 tons of paddy or something, or rice, still we are unable to distribute it to the public. Why? Because we didn't have the roads to carry this relief material which can be distributed among the populace, because much of the roads were flooded and kacha roads tha. ठीक है, so this was one of the biggest cause actually. We had barely any good roads, अच्छे roads नहीं थे, railway line ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं था, inland waterway भी इतना ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं था. So three things: mismanagement, maladministration, and failure of transportation network. These are the three reasons why near about 1 million people died in Odisha famine. ठीक है. And अच्छा, British policy of forcibly extracting agricultural revenue. Say, this you can answer this question by starting from, say, Battle of Buxar. Why? Battle of Buxar में क्या होगा? In 1764, after the Battle of Buxar, the Shah Alam, Mughal king Shah Alam, will give Diwani rights to East India Company to collect the taxes from Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. So the East India Company now becomes a territorial entity, and they will start exploiting the Odisha, not only Odisha people actually, Odisha, Bengal and Bihar population. Okay. That from that you can start your answer. Heavy dependence of agriculture in India on forces of nature. This is forces of nature means nothing but our heavy dependence on monsoon and unpredictability of monsoon. ये आपको लिखना है, ठीक है. So you are writing history but little bit geographical basis देके लिखना है आप. Okay. Next question, what is slum inclusive development? Will this lead to a sustainable urban development? See, when you talk about slum development, it can be in situ और जिसे हम ऑन साइट डेवलपमेंट कहते हैं, और इट कैन बी एक्स सिटू और ऑफ साइट. ठीक है. The idea of building, say for example, for a long period of time, the people who are living in slums, there is an idea that अगर हम city के बाहर कोई if we build a residential plot, if the government builds a residential plot, residential complex, they can be shifted over there. But that was a failure because the people living in slums, they are the ones who are providing or making the city, making the city function properly. And they will say, suppose they had to work in that particular region, that's why they are there. So that is the reason why the concept of ex situ rehabilitation of slum dwellers is a failure. वहाँ पे वो रेंट लगा देंगे या किसी और को दे देंगे, so it was a failure. So government across, not only Odisha, across India, they have thought that nahi, we should go for in situ or on site slum rehabilitation. ठीक है. And now government is building complex wherever the slum is there. So they are taking over the complete land and they are creating a residential complex. Now in this case what is happening is instead of horizontal growth, they are going for a vertical growth. So there is minimal usage of land is there, and urban region land is the most prized commodity. So vertical development हो रहा है, so that way, and they are the people or the slum dwellers no need to move anywhere else, so that helps them. Okay, so it's a win-win situation. And you can talk about Jaga mission also, Odisha's Jaga mission. ठीक है, Scotch award भी मिला था इसको. So will this lead to a sustainable urban development? Yes, obviously. ठीक है, ये क्वेश्चन भी हमने दिए थे. आई गेव दिस क्वेश्चन ऑल्सो. सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट ऑफ फ्यूचर इंडिया एसेंशियली एंटेल्स सस्टेनेबल अर्बनाइजेशन. दिस वाज a complete in detailed discussion. Anyway, next question, do you think sustainable development goal targets are achievable? If yes, how are we going to achieve it? If not, what are the obstacles to achieve it? Say, to write this question you must be aware of SDG index. ठीक है, SDG index. We can cook up an answer also. It's not that we cannot cook up an answer, but you should remember what are the major SDGs. Okay, at least 10 of it, then we should be able to answer it. Let me show you. UPSC में एक आर्टिकल था. So there was an article, SDG index 2021 का एक आर्टिकल था, performance of Indian states. So to answer that, whether we are truly achieving sustainable development goals or not, broadly, if you blindly say that whether we are going to achieve it or we are not going to achieve it, if you look at from an Indian point of view, some of the states are near about they're almost there. Okay, but whereas some parts of India is still lagging behind. So that's why ये एक article है. If you want to read, you can go ahead and read in UPSC site में है ये. यहाँ पे in detail तो है ही, but anyway, what we can use from this article is, see, if you see the overall sustainable development goals and our achievements towards it, there are states, say for example South Indian states and North में थोड़ा, and यहाँ पे 2-4 state and Sikkim. Okay, these are the states where they almost all they are able, they have the ability to realize the sustainable development goals by 2030. So उस आंसर को लिखना है तो you have to quote this. If you see, if you haven't read this report, you won't be able to write it. But if you are aware of this particular report, SDG index ka, then you should be able to use this particular diagram and make your answer, it will fetch you more marks in simpler terms. So we can see that this is the basic idea. और यहाँ पे आप अगर आप SDG goal 1 no poverty, ठीक है, end poverty in all forms everywhere. So this is the poverty वाला issue है. यहाँ पे अगर आप देखोगे this is the poverty pockets of India. बाकी rest of the things, poverty is, has been declining. And if you look at recent report by Multidimensional Poverty Index, Niti Aayog का जो report था, and I have discussed in mains test series also, that Odisha, 30% था हमारा poverty ratio. Now it is somewhere around 15%, and India level में it is around 5%. The recent report, if you look at household expenditure survey, अगर आप देखोगे, they are saying that India is near about 5% poverty रह गया है अभी. So you can quote this data, ठीक है, because sustainable development goal, first goal is end poverty. Apart from that, so we cannot write all the data, but if you at least remember pictorially, you'll be able to do justice to that answer. ये हो गया sustainable SDG 2, that is zero hunger. यहाँ पे अगर आप same जहाँ पे poverty है वहीं पे तो hunger ज़्यादा होगा. Now here Gujarat, Maharashtra is also included, that you can show here. Zero hunger, SDG 2, SDG Sustainable Development Goals 3, that is good health and well-being. If you are aware कि India में which particular states or which portion of India is doing well and which portion of India is not doing that well, then you will be able to answer this particular question properly. And I will suggest you go and read these 2 indexes, that will help you. 2 article है, पढ़ लेना इसको, ठीक है. Next question, outline the significance of Bhitarkanika National Park. Interesting question. This has been there in the news, multiple times. What are the things you can write? That Bhitarkanika National Park is a Ramsar site. It is a Ramsar site. ठीक है. कहाँ पे है ये? Geographically where it is located. You can write the river also, Brahmani River, etc. Okay. And it has been in the news because of crocodile and human contact. Not contact as actually. Conflict, ठीक है. And if you look at Bhitarkanika, the number of crocodile that it can host is at its peak. That is the reason why we see a lot of crocodile human conflict is happening in this particular region. अभी railway recently एक news में था जनवरी में, that they are building, there is a railway link that is connecting to Bhitarkanika national park. यहाँ पे गहीर मथा भी है. So you can talk about olive ridley turtles, and they go for mass nesting, which is known as Arivada. ठीक है. Arivada और क्या है यहाँ पे? Bhitarkanika is known for mangroves. And mangroves are, जब disaster होता है, specifically if there is a cyclone or something, you can talk about how they act as shock absorbers. ठीक है. So बता सकते हो. Now while discussing this, no need to do the whole of Odisha diagram. ऐसे करके दिखा देना, ठीक है. The river and where it is located, Bhitarkanika National Park and Gahir Matha Marine National Sanctuary. Okay. But writing 20 marks, you have to cook up certain other things. That you have to use your environmental knowledge, do the pictures twice or thrice. Okay. Going on to section B. Section B, all of the questions carry 15 marks. Now let's look at the question. What were the major changes that Mahatma Gandhi brought in public life in India? Now I gave this question also. I have elaborately discussed in my classes as well. See, if you look at Mahatma Gandhi, we had prior to Mahatma Gandhi, before he is coming to India in say 1915-16. Okay. Prior to Mahatma Gandhi, we have so many revolts, specifically say revolt of 1857, all other revolts. But what was lacking in this revolt is the national consciousness or nationalism. The idea of patriotism or nationalism was lacking. ठीक है. When Gandhi will come into India and eventually he will take part in India's struggle for independence, he will bring some novel elements. What are the novel elements that you can discuss? You can talk about satyagraha, you can talk about non-violence or ahimsa, and his fight is a is a ethical fight. So he will bring ethics into India's struggle for independence. And because he is going for a non-violent movement, he will inspire masses as well as women. And in fact, Gandhi will be able to do that. So these are the novel features he has brought and he has implemented in India. And he will expose the white man's जो burden था, that as a group of people who are not civilized, that's why the British were there to civilize us. He will expose that, expose the white man's burden concept, and at the same time his fight will corrode the moral pillars of ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी. ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी या ब्रिटिश एम्पायर कह सकते हैं अभी, ठीक है. सो ही विल एक्सपोज द corruption of moral, ethical corruption or moral corruption of the British Empire. Okay, so he brought some novel features, no doubt. He also introduced some saint or priestly qualities into India's public life. Okay, he will bring communal harmony as well. Okay, although he could not, because so much of divisiveness was there, he was unable to fight the divide and rule of British and the Jinnah. But eventually he will try at least. Okay, and he will till the end, till India gets independence, till the last moment he will be trying that. In fact, he will not attend the our Independence Day. He will be in Kolkata that point of time. So yes, आप ऐसे लिख सकते हो आराम से. Extremism in politics seldom achieves positive results. ठीक है. We had moderates, we had extremists, ठीक है. We have revolutionaries. Now, if you look at the moderates, discussed in the context of Indian national movement. Now, extremism has not achieved anything positive. That is the statement you have to criticize. But if you look at in the context of Indian national movement, the moderates didn't achieve much. There was no tangible achievement as far as the moderates are concerned. However, they exposed the drain or economic drain of India by the British Empire. So that was there was no big achievements, but that was the only achievement. And they didn't believe in masses. So they believed in constitutional reform, and that see, the moderates failed. That is the reason why we see the rise of extremism led by Tilak. Okay. And in fact, the statement is kind of you can critically analyze as well. Okay. Because Tilak, if you see, he will go for Home Rule League. They have belief in the capacity of the masses. They had faith on the masses, and all the works that is done by Tilak in Home Rule League, that will create the platform for Gandhi. In fact, it will become much easier for Gandhi to use this platform of Home Rule League and the base that has been built by Tilak. The extremists also will not achieve much, no doubt about it. Okay. However, this base will be eventually used by Gandhi and others. Okay, to go for their methodology of movement. Okay. Revolutionaries. So these are individual heroic actions, but there is a counter narrative to this one. But some other time we'll discuss that. Nonetheless, so extremism in politics seldom achieves positive results. Moderates didn't achieve much. Extremists, if you view that point of view, statement ko, you have to say that although extremists such as Tilak didn't achieve much. In fact, उनका जो स्वदेशी movement था, they wanted it to be a pan-India movement. So not necessarily, see the results, if you see instantaneously, it might seem they haven't achieved much, but if you do a cold calculated analysis of the history, they have created the platform. That should be the end of your answer. That's how you are going to write it. Okay? Criticize the moderates, criticize the extremists, show the achievements of moderates, show the achievements of extremists. If the statement is saying extremism में, अगर extremism में politics कर रहे हो कुछ नहीं होगा, moderates में ऐसे कुछ हासिल ही नहीं हुआ था. So how how we are going to do the go for national movement? Is it revolutionaries? They also have don't have tangible achievements. ठीक है, it was only individual heroic action mostly. So extremism लिखना है, moderate भी लिखना है यहाँ पे. ठीक है. Moving on, throw light on the role of Jai Rajguru and Bakshi Jagabandhu. This one, easy one, discussed in the classes. Jai Rajguru material में भी दिया गया था, Bakshi Jagabandhu. Now, how would a union of state be different from a federation of states? Discuss. ये आपका Indian brand of federalism, ठीक है, वो बता देना. In the context of constitutional position in India, that India is a union, okay. Indian brand of federalism, how it is different from the American brand of federalism. But here another important aspect is, see, they are asking about the American Civil War. ठीक है, so यहाँ पे if you don't know the secession and the confederacy, you won't be able to answer it. So even if GS1 world history was not mentioned in OPSC syllabus, they have asked this question. So at least partly partly you can write the answer. Specifically those with history optional, they would have done this particular paper well. The rest of the students had to suffer for this particular questions, at least partly. What is secularism? In what ways it is compatible with multicultural, multi-religious ethos practiced by India across the ages? I gave this question in our test series also, that communalism divided India, regionalism segregated it, and secularism glued the diversity of India. So I have discussed this particular question as well in detail. Easy question, behavioral question. What were the reasons for the rapid growth of industrial revolution in Europe? Again, world history का question है. Mostly history students, history optional students will be happy with GS1 paper. Rest of the students might not be that happy, and their performance will be, say, average or above average. Okay. But if you are smart enough, you will be able to answer it. The problem is, if you have done selective reading and have not done the wholesome preparation. Say, if you look at this particular paper, over the जितने सारे paper है, OPSC 1, 2, 3, 4, in GS1 they are asking say environment questions. Obviously they can say it is a geography related hai. So how so you have to, I also asked my students ki if you are going for GS1, read all the GS read all the GS papers or revise them and go. If there is a exam for GS1 and 2, read 3 and 4 and go to the exam as well. Okay. And I think this year that strategy really if you look at GS paper 2, unka opening question was what is accountability, that is ethics question. Okay. So yes, so it is not about when you are preparing, mostly we read polity, history, geography in silos. Okay. There is no connection. You have to connect the dots. If you are missing the connection of the dots, you won't enrich your answer, and that is where you will you will suffer. Anyway, what are the reasons for rapid growth of industrial revolution in Europe? First is invention. Second is, first it will happen in Britain because there is a huge market. They had a huge market and had access to huge raw material. And because they were, these were the colonies, they had colonies across the world. Access to market to tha, access to raw material tha. So obviously, it was natural that they will go for industrial revolution. और ये जो innovation और invention हुआ है जितने सारे, it was because of the compulsion of the business. ठीक है, जो supply demand का जो compulsion है, because of that people will go for innovation. ठीक, so that is the major reason. And because they were the colonizers, so obviously they had access to the whole world market. Absence of modern industrialization in prosperous lands of India and China. Why? See, India केस अलग है, China केस अलग है. If you look at Europe में the industrial revolution will happen in Britain, then it will be will happen in Germany. So why it is happening? Because this point of time Europe is not a single entity. It is group of nations, and group of nations में क्या है? When one country is progressing, so it is imbibing competitive spirit within the nations. But this point of time अगर चाइना देखोगे आप, it was united as a nation, so there was no competitive spirit within China. But this we saw in Europe. That is the reason why जब competitive spirit रहता है, innovation or invention will be more and more. That is also true, because we know that अगर if you look at modern India भी अगर आप देखोगे, the Portuguese, Dutch, the British and the French, all of them are fighting, right? The Spain will be going some other parts of the world. So all of them are fighting the same battle for market dominance, access to to establish their colonies. So yes, that competitive spirit gave rise to innovation, and that innovation eventually resulted in industrial revolution. हाँ, अगर आप if you ask this question to a sociologist, they will say कि religion also has a role to play, because अगर आप यहाँ पे देखोगे यूरोप में, ओके, कैथलिसिज्म के बाद प्रोटेस्टेंट विल सी राइज ऑफ प्रोटेस्टेंट्स, एंड द प्रोटेस्टेंट एक एथिक्स है, सोशियोलॉजी स्टूडेंट विल बी नोइंग दैट प्रोटेस्टेंट एथिक्स promotes capitalistic ability and promotes the work ethic, ठीक है. Whereas say China or Confucius, China is mostly influenced by Confucius. So there is a philosophical angle to this particular question as well. A philosophy student or sociology student will answer this question differently, but because this is a GS paper, we have to confine with these things. You can write those things, but not you cannot be too elaborate about those aspects of it. Okay. Why it didn't happen in India and China? India was a colony, right? All the raw materials, see, Marx will write that, right? That the very land of cotton is impregnated with the British cotton, right? So yes, India is exploited all the raw materials. We become the net exporter of raw materials. We'll see deindustrialization will be happening, and we'll see rise of ruralization in India because of the exploitation. वो लिख सकते हो. See, if you talk about industry requires three things: land, labor, and capital. Another is there, that is entrepreneurship. ठीक है. Europe में this point of time they will build up they will build up or come up with innovative systems. ठीक है, banking system, check system, ये वो सब आएगा. That will make access to capital easier. ठीक है. They had access to cheap labor, slave trade, ये सब करते रहेंगे. So yes, so land तो they are already colonized and they have a huge market for that. So entrepreneur spirit is already there because they have access to capital, access to labor, cheap labor. So obviously यूरोप में होगा ये, ठीक है. And because ब्रिटेन में शुरू होगा, then there will be a competition within the European nations. So that's why we will see the sphere of industrial revolution will be growing from Britain. It will grow towards Germany, Spain, other parts. Okay, Italy. There are many others points, but this must for GS purpose this should suffice. Next question: disaster risk reduction is everybody's business. Now, disaster risk reduction is associated with Sendai framework. But if you are writing about only Sendai framework, it is not about that at all. It is talking about disaster risk reduction is everybody's business. So Sendai framework एक passing reference दे देना कि ये Sendai framework है. It is running from 2015 to 30 and it talks about disaster risk reduction. Why it is everybody's business? Because here you have to find out कि अगर हाँ यहाँ पे क्या आप यूज कर सकते हो. IPCC assessment report 6th, उसका जो the recent report that was given by IPCC, they are saying that the climate change, we are already it is anthropogenic, climate change हो रहा है and we won't be able to reverse it. ठीक है. So climate change induced disaster, इसके बारे में बात करना है आपको. Because see, whenever there is when is everybody's business, why everybody should be worried about it? Obviously. Why? Because say for a country like say USA, or say a country like say China, who are who are economic behemoths, still अगर disaster हो रहा है, will it affect them? Yes, definitely, because we are living in a, one of the reasons why it is everybody's business is we live in a hyper globalized world, and any event that is happening in any part of the world is going to affect rest of the world. So economically it will affect us, environmentally it will affect us, it will affect our migration policies. यहाँ पे climate refugee बन जाएंगे, refugee crisis होगा, war induced refugee तो हम देख रहे हैं, but climate induced refugee will be more and more. ठीक है, when people are, so that will create a huge setback. So that is the reason why if you want to prepare for disaster, then everybody has a role in it. And when we say everybody's business, one particular principle you have to talk about here is common but differentiated responsibilities. ठीक है, that is the say rich countries who have pumped much of the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and are responsible for the climate change. They should do more and help the least developed nations to go for growth, but green growth, and for that they need financial assistance, technological assistance and all other things. ठीक है, so ये principle के बारे में भी बात करना है. एग्जाम्पल दे देना, 5P in sustainable development goals. See, this is a GS1 paper, and I think 70-80 questions is coming from say environment itself. All of the students have read 5T. Now suddenly you have to write about 5P. Anyway, if you have read sustainable development goals, you should be able to write it. Moving on, what is precision agriculture? Will it be possible in Indian agriculture? Yes. I gave a particular question in our test series, that what is AI and how AI can change the fortune of Indian farmers. We have talked about a particular a particular project. तेलंगाना में एक प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है, सागू बागू प्रोजेक्ट करके. ठीक है, सागू बागू प्रोजेक्ट, इसके बारे में पढ़ना. ठीक है, वेयर पीपल using AI, Internet of Things for precision agriculture. That is one example. If you look at say where else we are using precision agriculture. Acha, what is precision agriculture? When you are going for agriculture, again you are using land, labor and capital. Optimal utilization of, simply लिख देना ऐसे. ठीक है, optimal utilization of land, labor, capital and the knowledge about agriculture in order to maximize its productivity is precision agriculture. इसमें we can go for per drop more crop, या nano urea हो गया है, या better usage of fertilizer. See, soil moisture index, ये सब. ठीक है, and when we are talking about agriculture, you can talk about pre, during and post harvest. ठीक है, pre harvest, during harvest and post harvest. 3 major stages of agriculture is there. Before you go for say transplantation or going for agriculture, आपको soil moisture के बारे में अगर पता है, if you have all the data, right, fertilizer के बारे में पता है, या nutrition के बारे में पता है, soil के बारे में, soil health you have access knowledge, climate के बारे में पता है, whether you are aware of it, then you will take a better decision. So that is pre. During क्या हो सकता है, pest management हो गया, ये हो गया, locust management हो गया, fertilizer spraying, all that you can use over here. यहाँ पे अभी इंटरेस्टिंग न्यूज़ पे था ये ड्रोन दीदीज. ठीक है, जब बारिश के सीजन में दे आर अनएबल टू गो टू द फील्ड, बट स्टिल दे वांट टू स्प्रे पेस्टिसाइड या फर्टिलाइजर या जो भी, दे आर यूजिंग इट थ्रू द एप्लीकेशन ऑफ ड्रोन्स एंड ऑल, एंड इट इज़ स्केलेबल ऑल्सो, डूएबल ऑल्सो. I know कि the question, will it be possible in Indian agriculture? That question is coming because if you look at Indian farmers, small and marginal farmers are 85%. So ज़्यादा land holding नहीं है. So can we go for precision agriculture? Yes, ड्रिप इरिगेशन हो गया, पर ड्रॉप मोर क्रॉप हो गया, ऑल दिस थिंग्स कैन बी डन. एंड इनफैक्ट अगर आप देखोगे कश्मीर में दे आर गोइंग फॉर पर्पल रिवोल्यूशन. दैट इज नथिंग बट प्रिसिशन एग्रीकल्चर. पीपल हैव डबल देयर इनकम ओवर देयर. जम्मू कश्मीर में चल रहा है, उड़ीसा में, इन उड़ीसा वी आर गोइंग फॉर प्रिसिशन एग्रीकल्चर. कोरापुट कॉफ़ी हो गया या स्ट्रॉबेरी हो गया, कोरापुट में चल रहा है. सो वेर एवर द नॉलेज is helping us, we are able to go for precision agriculture. And precision agriculture में all the tools, AI, Internet of Things, say irrigation या पानी, if there is the moisture is low, you can आप ऐसे you can use AI and IoT to go for irrigation. You don't need to go and irrigate your field. It will be automatically depending on the moisture. The sensor will read the moisture data, and अगर कम है it will essentially will start the pump and your field will be irrigated. So that is precision agriculture. ठीक है. बहुत सारे ऐसे एग्जाम्पल दिया था, can be used to write this answer. Now, will the aging population be a problem in India? If not, what are the problems you foresee in the age structure of the Indian population? ठीक है. यहाँ पे here to answer this question you have to write demographic dividend क्या है, demographic bulge क्या है, ठीक है, जो डेमोग्राफिक विंडो क्या है एंड डेमोग्राफिक डिजास्टर क्या है. ठीक है. वेदर द डेमोग्राफिक बल्ज दैट इंडिया इज एक्सपीरियंसिंग, maximum number of people in workable age. So this demographic bulge, will it be a dividend for India or will it be a disaster for India? That is the bigger question. And यहाँ पे we have a demographic window. Demographic window is, I have discussed this one. We have only to take the benefit of this demography. We have only 50 years, 2005 to 55. We are reaching 2030 already. So yes, we have to be careful of that. We have only couple of decades left to reap the benefits of it. Otherwise will this demographic dividend will eventually end as demographic disaster. This one also discussed in the test series. What is geoinformatics? What are the advantages in planning in various sectors? Geoinformatics मतलब you are using remote sensing data, remote sensing, GPS, ठीक है, all this kind of data you are using for planning. And जब आप planning की बात कर रहे हो, it can help in disaster management, it can help in urban management, it can help in all other agriculture से लेके बहुत सारा इसका applicability है. ठीक है. आई थिंक यूपीएससी ट्री में एक आर्टिकल है जियोग्राफिकल इंफॉर्मेशन सिस्टम्स, मे बी 2016-17 का आर्टिकल है, वो पढ़ लो, यू विल हैव एन आइडिया. व्हाट डू यू अंडरस्टैंड बाय द टर्म क्लाइमेट रेजिलियंस? व्हाट इज द नीड फॉर इट? व्हाट आर द थिंग्स वी नीड? सी, क्लाइमेट रेजिलियंस, व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ क्लाइमेट रेजिलियंस? दैट द सिस्टम इज एबल टू विथस्टैंड द क्लाइमेटिक ऑनस्लॉट. इसका मतलब क्या है? And what are the things we want to withstand the climatic onslaught? Maybe most importantly our food production systems, that is our agriculture. Second, our cities, those are the engines of growth. So we need our cities who can will be able to withstand the climatic onslaught. Okay, so our food, the place where we work, or maybe you get much of our economic activity happens over there, and our shelter being our home. And climate is threatening all these things. It is threatening our food production systems, our jobs or means of livelihood, as well as our homes. ठीक है, it is going to displace majority of them. And how climate change is threatening all that? See, if you look at much of the world's cities are coastal cities. ठीक है, larger part of the world's population are living near the coast. So that's why अगर climate change हो रहा है, that will result in sea level rise, and sea level rise will eventually submerge these coastal cities. The magnificent gigantic urban engines which will be submerged completely. So that is, can the cities withstand the climatic onslaught? That is the major question over here. And these three, at least these three, important parameters you have to discuss over here. How to make our food production systems climatic resilience, how to make our cities or urban areas or where we work, okay, climate resilient, and how to make our shelter or home climatic resilience. Okay. I get this question, what do you understand by climate smart agriculture? But this particular question only deals, say agriculture aspect of it, not the city or shelter aspect of it, but doable nonetheless. So we are done with the GS1 paper discussion. See, essay was moderate, but GS1, thoda because there were some world history nobody has read it. Mostly if you haven't prepared for UPSC, आप पढ़ोगे भी नहीं. If you are only a OPSC aspirant, आप कभी भी पढ़ोगे नहीं. Unless and until history is is your optional. So maybe 3-4 questions people might have suffered because of that. Another important thing is say जैसे climate resilience हो गया या they are asking sustainable development, that is dominating in the say 70-80 marks are in GS1 paper. अगर environment का हो गया, you might not have read or revised and went to the exam with that in mind कि ये GS3 का major part है, इसमें कैसे आ गया. So my suggestion is integrate everything. When you are reading something, integrate everything, because JS 1, 2, 3, 4 are interrelated. Unless and until you are doing that, you won't be able to, if this kind of questions are, this kind of questions will be there moving forth, then it will become little bit, difficult for you. And thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.